So this is our virtual book club. It is presented by the Women in Industry group through TAPI and specifically by the Career Catalyst Committee, which I chair with a bunch of other wonderful ladies. So this is our third book club, and we chose the Likeability Trap and how to break free and succeed as you are. So, as part of TAPI, we do have an antitrust policy, just stating that we're all from different companies, some of us may be competitors. So, we're not going to discuss anything kind of in that realm. I don't think there's much risk of that here for this discussion, but just as a reminder. And speaking of reminders, so we do have a number of folks on the call. If you could just keep yourself muted unless you're actively speaking, the raise hand feature is wonderfully helpful so that everybody gets a chance to speak as well. And then if you want to put questions in the chat, we can go that way as well. And Sarah, I'm going to hand this introduction over to you because you were the one that
Thank you,
has.
Brianna. So we would like to give a warm welcome to Alicia Menendez. Hi, Alicia. Thanks for being here. Alicia is a journalist and multimedia storyteller recognized as broadcast journalism's new gladiator, Miss Millennial, and a content queen. She hosts news and pop culture programming, including Alicia Menendez Tonight on Fusion TV, which won a Gracie Award. Her reporting has taken her from Syrian refugee camps to U.S. election coverage, and she's contributed to ABC's Nightline, World News Tonight, and Good Morning America. Previously, Alicia was a founding host of HuffPost Live, covering major events like the Boston Marathon bombing and the 2012 election. A Harvard graduate and Union City, New Jersey native, she lives in Miami with her husband and daughter. So welcome, Alicia. And Brianna was referring to my Hail Mary toss that I did when we picked this book. I was like looking through Alicia's website and then saw there was a way to contact. And so I reached out, and it turns out she was so generous to join us today for a few minutes. So thank you there. I'm going to roll to our questions for Alicia. What was the moment or experience that made you say, I need to write the likability trap? Was there a personal tipping point?
Yeah, there was. Great question. So I, for a while, worked at a station that was owned by ABC and by Univision, and that meant I got opportunities to do things like be on The View, which was an ABC property and was so exciting. And I was so nervous, like throw up in the bathroom nervous. And I kept asking people for advice, and the advice was always like, well, just like be who you are, be you. And in my early 30s, I all of a sudden was like, wait a second, I don't know who that is. Is it the me I am with my friends? Is it the me I am at work? Is it the me I am at TV? And I realized that there were all of these me's that were not aligned at all. And that when I am with people, was like molding myself to be whoever they wanted or needed me to be in that moment. And and it meant that I like was no good on The View. I bombed, and I got off of the set and was like, I actually have a thing I need to grapple with here, which is not knowing who I'm supposed to be in a way that is like not context specific. And so that began a journey. And I originally imagined this book as sort of like an eat, pray, love for likability, where I, as a person who care about being well liked, would like do yoga and eat gelato and learn to care less. And I started by doing what I do best, which is interviewing other people. And what I found is there are a lot of women like me. Majority of women are like me. They care about what other people think of them. There's a subset of them who are dictated in the way they are by what other people think of them. But there are also all these women who are just like themselves, radically themselves. And what was interesting to me was, as much as I pay a price for caring so much about what other people think, those women pay a price too, because there is an expectation that women are supposed to care about what other people think about them. And so that tension, this expectation that women are supposed to care, but if you care too much, it stops you from being the leader you want to be, became really interesting to me.
I can severely relate to that. The barfing part as well. Um, Thank you for that response. It's now 10 years after your speech in Albuquerque, New Mexico that you open your book with, and 6 years after you publish this book. What's changed? What hasn't? Are there any follow-ups in the works?
Um, So the biggest thing that changed is that I became a mom in that period of time in the 10 years since the speech. And I have two daughters. And so I think about these questions a lot now as a mother, especially because there's so much advice out there about how to raise our girls, to use their voice and be strong. And I actually think where I got the book right is we can do all of that work. And if we are sending them out into a world that is not ready to embrace them, and to embrace the way that they lead and is open to multiple styles of leadership, then there are limits to what that individual coaching is going to do. It's also so interesting having two girls because they're so different. For any of you who have children, you are familiar with this concept. It is like very humbling because you realize you're shaping them at the margins. And I have one people pleaser for sure, and one who does not give a damn. And so I worry about them and I coach them in different ways. And the biggest thing I learned is like the ways this shows up is so subtle, right? It's like it is rare that someone will bring you into a meeting and be like, I don't know, Sarah, just like nobody likes you, and that's the big problem. It is articulated to us in ways that are really subtle, in ways that are really context specific. Like I have been in workplaces where I am told I am too much and I need to tone it down, and I have been in workplaces where I am told I need to step up and take up more room, which tells me that it's not just about who I am, it's about the environment that we're operating in. And I've really had lots of opportunities to process this, not only as a person who gets managed by other leaders, but as a person who leads and who manages. And you realize how tempting it is with mentees, with people you sponsor, to immediately go to critical subjective feedback, to talk to them about the way they sit in a chair or the way they use their voice or the way they use their hands. And while some of that feedback can be helpful, it is never as helpful as giving someone a stretch assignment, as focusing on how their style is impacting the results of their work. It is not as helpful as setting up a meeting for them where they meet someone who might be able to offer them a job opportunity. So really shifting away personally from like, I just need to tell you the way that you're showing up is making it harder for people to listen to you, and being like, how do I actually create opportunities for this person to grow and to stretch?
Thank you. I noticed that, Andrea, you put a question in the comments. If you would like to read that, we would appreciate it.
Certainly. For what it's worth, I did listen to your book as an audiobook, and you just the cadence of the book, everything else, I thought it was really well presented. So thank you for that. As an add-on to bullet two, as an audiobook, I don't have it in front of me. I'm listening to it as I drive, and I didn't know when you had written it. So I looked it up afterwards to find out, was it before or after President Trump's reelection? And so my question stems from that. Would you have added or modified anything in your book with that background context?
Yes, I would have. Great question. I also thank you. I did the audiobook like 2 weeks before I gave birth. So it was an excruciating process because I was like, I have a baby sitting on my diaphragm. So thank you for listening to it. Yeah, what I would have added, I actually, the thing that I wish I'd had time that I would have been able to add was actually from the 2020 race. And it was about the vice presidential positioning. Joe Biden had won the Democratic nomination. He had made it clear that he was going to choose a woman to be his vice president. And I watched something happen that I had never seen before, which is normally when people there's speculation that someone is being considered for the vice presidency, they go on the Sunday shows or on a cable show and they'll be, and someone like me is like, Andrea, your name is being widely buzzed about. And then the person would be like, oh, me, like, no, like, I just am committed to getting this president elected. And like, this isn't about me, when they know they're being vetted and they know they want it. And what I watched, and I think I credit Stacey Abrams for this, maybe she's just the first person I saw do it. They all sort of all these women did the same thing, which is they said it would be an honor to be considered for the vice presidency of the United States. And I think I'd be really good at it. And let me tell you why I'd be so good at it. And then they'd always sort of put a bow on it where they'd say, but no matter who Joe Biden chooses, I will support that ticket. And then they each did it. Like Kamala Harris did it. Karen Bass did it. And what it did was it created to me like a safety net for all of them, where the fact that they all were saying the same thing, which was, I want it, which is a thing we're not accustomed to hearing from women. Let me tell you why I'd be great at it. And then I'm going to be a team player no matter what. It was like this, it was a perfect message. But the fact that they were all doing it created safety in numbers. And I think that there is something for all of us to learn about that, which is especially for those of us who have a relative form of privilege in whatever space we're operating in, to be the first one to be that brave, create space for someone else to be that brave and for that to become the norm. I do want to be a leader. I do want to be considered for a promotion. I think I do a great job. Let me point to some of the results of my work and then say, but no matter what happens, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Like that just, if we're all doing that, then it's not weird or notable that any single one of us is doing it.
Thank you. And like Andrea, I listened to the audiobook and Brianna did as well. I have to say it's strange because it gave me like a parasocial relationship with you, listening to you talk in my ear when I'm doing all my,
I love
nuanced
that.
things in the home. Um, I guess I could piggyback on that with social and with being on TV and with having a book and an audiobook, those relationships, I mean, you're basically closer to your audience than has ever been available before. How does that affect you, or how do you utilize that?
Um, it's a great question, and it's a big part of it for me, which is that I'm on multiple feedback loops. I'm on an X feedback loop and a Blue Sky feedback loop and an Instagram feedback loop. And I try to be on TikTok, but I'm just too old and I don't have the energy for it. Um, and I notice something that happens that comes up for me, and I wonder if it comes up for anybody else, which is like people will be so lovely. People will be like, I love your hair tonight. Like green is your color. And I'm like, thank you so much. And it's the people who are like, you said that word wrong. Or like your teeth, like you look like a vampire. Why are those teeth so long? Like those are the people that I have the instinct to respond to. And the fact that there is that sort of like that I am magnetized towards the negative or magnetized towards the critical is a muscle memory that I have been trying to break. To be like, there are people who are aligning with me, who are cheering me on, and how do I surround myself with those people and lean into those people and actually not interact and not give attention to the people who are being not. I mean, that's the thing. You can give critical feedback and be kind, right? I see people do it all the time. It's to me the cruelty that it is often wrapped up in right now as a public person. But I think that there is a corollary for those of us who are not public people in quite the same way, which is when you find those people who see you in your best light and who they're not just cheerleaders, right? They also sort of see the things that you need to work on or the edges that need a little rounding, and they are able to reflect back to you your best and highest self. Those are the people you want to spend more time with. And those are the people you want to invest in. And that is as true in a friend to friend relationship as it is with work peers, mentors, and sponsors.
It's so hard, that reflex to want to explain, justify, get them on your side. I mean, it ties right into likability. Like You just haven't seen all the parts of me yet. I promise you'll like me.
You'd love me if you met me in person.
To go a little more personal, what's your favorite t-shirt? You alluded to that's your comfort,
Thank
and it
you.
is mine too.
What a question. No, I want to tip my hat to you because no one has asked this. There's a Uniqlo t-shirt I love right now. It's got like slightly longer sleeves. It's slightly oversized. It's got a great neckline. It's about $11. And given that I am always in like so much, not right now, but generally so much makeup, stuff gets all over things. And like I appreciate a t-shirt that's not too fussy and I don't have to worry about. But that's it. I have like 5 of them. I realized at some point I needed enough to get me Monday through Friday.
I do dupes as well. Do you
Yeah,
travel in them? Are they good
I
for the...
do. Yeah, of course.
Okay, what surprised you the most in your own personal transformation with likability?
That I'm still trying to do it. Like this is not one of those like listen, I could have probably written a book that would have sold much better that was like here is the secret elixir you take that means you no longer care. I don't think that is possible. I think it is possible to learn to care less. I think the bigger learnings for me were about how especially at work you learn to reframe conversations, right? So like most of us, the vast majority of feedback we get as women, as I said before, is that critical subjective feedback. And knowing when you're in your 6-month review, a year review, how to say thank you so much for that feedback because you will inevitably get it. But you say, can you connect the dot for me between how you think I'm by Kate, how you sense me showing up and how it's impacting the results of my work. Like, I think just like the refocus on results and helping people get there. And again, like I am now getting older. I manage more people, which means I am the one giving that feedback and really thinking about like how do I share feedback that will allow a person to implement a change that is actually going to improve their work and improve the product. Like I give the example of like someone, if you ask for that feedback, someone might be able to say to you, Sarah, I know that you pride yourself on being deliberate and meticulous, but sometimes it shows up as indecision. 2 weeks ago, we needed to get a deck to the client, and you were so busy fussing over the font that the deck was delayed and we lost that business, right? Like that type of thing. It's like, oh, like it's not just, well, you're too detail oriented. It's like you're detail oriented to a degree to which it actually impacted the work and impacted all of us. Like that refocus has been interesting. And then the other thing is just, and maybe that I think this is a product of getting older, and I write about this in the book, is like enjoy your real friends. Like if work requires a performance, I know very few people who get to be their full authentic self 100% of the time at work. But that means then in the rest of your life, you want to be able to relax and be yourself. And that for me meant like the pruning of friendships. And I always say that to people who are in their late 20s and early 30s. But also if you are in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s and you haven't done it yet, there's always time to invest in the people with whom you feel you can be genuinely yourself. And for me, it was about really distancing myself from people who I felt I had to perform for.
Yeah, who do you feel best around? Who do you feel most authentic around? So it's reflecting after a hangout and going, I left that feeling down. Why would I keep wanting
Right.
to hang out with that person? Again, anybody could be putting questions in the chat, and we know we have you for a limited time, so just holler when you need to leave. What do you feel like is the biggest hurdle for women in the workplace? I guess outside of likability.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is the lack of infrastructure around caretaking. Whether that is caretaking for our children, if you have children, whether it is caretaking for a parent, just the amount of pressure there is on women, the number of things we are left to figure out for ourselves as though it is an individual problem and not a societal problem, is to me just at a structural level the biggest challenge. Like I just think we as a society still have so much more investing to do in care and communities of care, that in this economy where most families need to have dual income, if you're part of a partnership, that there is an accounting for who's going to take care of all the people that need caring for.
It's a tough one for sure.
But we're made to feel crazy. We're made to feel like we're somehow failing. Like that I just like if I just found the right babysitter, like what if I just found, what my mother-in-law has dementia. It's like it would just and it's this constant challenge where we want to do right by her. We want to be financially responsible because all these forms of care are so expensive. And it is both the executive function that we as women are asked for to just figure it out, to map it all out and map out the hours and map out the hourly rate and figure out who's doing pickup and drop off, but also just like there should be universal pre-K. Like there should just be ways in which we as a society decide it is important to support working people who are also caretakers.
Thank you. Sarah Lohner, you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you, Alicia, for being here today. I loved your book. I did not listen to it. I read it because I'm old school like that. Um, but you write a lot about both likability and authenticity, and that kind of had me, kind of looking internally, how do I define likability? But then how does that differ from, my authentic self? So what are the gaps in what I think likability is and kind of like who my authentic self is? Have you thought through that kind of like what's your definition of likability and kind of how, does your view of yourself match up to that?
I don't think I'm intrigued by your question, but I don't think I'm understanding it. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so like if I view likability as, someone being super friendly or warm,
Yes.
and
Yes. Okay.
then when I, look at myself and try to find my authentic self, you know, I'm bubbly and, warm, but, I know that some people might not, find me, quote, likable. So trying to like define one and then kind of match my true self up against that, if that
Yeah, I mean,
makes
I
sense.
think, yeah, it does make sense. Part of it is just likability is so subjective. Like, like I could love you and someone else could be like, she's the most annoying person in the entire world, and you are the same person with both of us, right? So
Right.
it actually is in the eye of the beholder. I guess where I came to on this question was in a workplace capacity in terms of like just over communicating and being really clear about what your intentions are, right? That it's like, this is why I'm showing up this way. This is why I think this matters. This is why I need the project done by noon, right? I'm not like arbitrarily choosing that to be a pain in the ass. It's like I actually think that this is why things have to happen, and that sometimes we make a bunch of assumptions. Um, but like you really can't control it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, um, and I know what you mean. I mean, I think part of writing this book that helped me is like people are like, I used to think that people were doing things truly just to like drive me crazy, where I'm like, how hard is it to say hello in the morning? How hard is it to do this? How hard is it to bring in cupcakes on people's birthday? And it's like, those are things that I value. And I think it is in terms of other people trying to figure out like, what is it that actually motivates this person and what is it that they actually respond to? And sometimes I've even gotten just like really explicit with people where I'm like, I would love to have a better working relationship, and I just need to understand like what kind of feedback you're responsive to, what kind of overtures you're responsive to. Because there are a few people where I'm like, I have tried every trick in the book. I have tried words of affirmation. I have sent you champagne. Like nothing here is working. And so that is helpful. And then to your point, it's like, are you being bubbly and affable because you want people to like you? Or are you being bubbly because that's who you are? Because if that's who you are, then that's who you are. And that is how you show up consistently. And you have no control over whether or not that's something that someone else likes. And like the best thing I think we can do is sort of release that and be consistent in who we are. I also sometimes find myself, it's like if you are a giver of like
Mhm.
energy, time, resources, to also in a way that is not punitive, pull back from that. Because I've had to accept that sometimes I am doing that with an unstated expectation of reciprocity. I am happy to see you. Now you're going to be happy to see me. And it's like, once I know that there's not going to be that return, either you have the energy to keep showing up that way, or it's also okay to like not give so much of yourself if you are not getting it in return.
Perfect. Thank you. Lou, I know you got your hand up too.
Yep. Hello, Alicia. I like your passion. And I listen to your audiobook. I drive a lot, but I also want to get a hard copy so I can make notes and put bookmarks in there. I just I can relate really when was reading the book because I'm going in between here and there, depending on the situation. So here's one situation I want to get your feedback. I was on a call. I work for an international company, and I'm a regional sales manager. So one time I was on a call with a group of leaders, and I really asked for a commitment from somebody on the call. And I would like to get to know the timing, really trying to get an answer. But later on, I received the feedback that I came across being too pushy. So how would you suggest that we handle this kind of feedback? I thought I was doing the right thing, trying to get a date, getting the timeline, but I was told I was being too pushy.
Great example. So thank you, Lou, for bringing it up. Yeah, like this is it. Like this is exactly so like first let's just acknowledge that like some of this is impacted by perceptions based on gender and race and all of that, and that like maybe if your name were Joe and you tried to do all of this, it would have landed differently and nobody would have thought anything of it. But that is not the world we live in. We live in this world, and you're trying to succeed at business in this world. I just think drilling down with the person who's giving the feedback, I'm trying to be effective. So I always thank people for their feedback, even if I think it's bullshit, right? Like just to be like, thank you so much. Like I'm acknowledging that it took time and energy to give me that feedback. And I would rather receive the feedback than have people quietly whisper about me and make determinations about my future without giving me the opportunity to course correct. So I try to stay sort of gracious about feedback, even when I don't like it. And then I think in that case, I think it's hard to know without the context of like, was it the number of times you asked? Was it the tone in which you asked? Is there an alternate way, given that do we agree that the objective was to nail down a timeline? Because if we don't agree on that, then we actually have a substantive difference, not a stylistic difference. But if we agree that the objective was to nail down the timeline, how instead would you have suggested I go about that? Right? At the point at which I received resistance, should I have followed up in an email? At the point at which I received resistance, should there have been a follow-up call? Like, make it less about you and more about what is the mechanism or structure by which we're going to do that, so that the next time it comes around, you can play out the playbook that was laid out for you. And the person may still find you irritating or annoying, right? And then you can be like, the core ask was what bothered them, right? They didn't want to nail down a timeline. They didn't like the ask. I could have asked it with like an ice cream sundae. I could have asked it with like a smiley face. I could have let it go and followed up 2 days later, and they would have been equally annoyed. So I think just like getting to what are we agreed upon the objective, and how would you counter propose my have getting us over the finish line?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you
I'm
very
sorry,
much.
Lou, that's so annoying.
I said we've all been there. Yeah.
Yes. Sarah, I can do one more question and then I have to go to my team meeting.
Oh no. My last one, I have one, but did somebody else have one?
If they do, we can do two, but then I gotta go.
Okay. What are you reading right now that's inspiring?
Oh my God, all I'm doing is reading fiction because the world is too heavy right now. I just read surprisingly brilliant creatures or brilliant creatures. There's like an octopus that talks in it. It's very strange, but I like highly recommend it and loved it. There is a book that has not come out yet. I got a galley of it called The White Hot that is about by Kiara Alegria Hood. She wrote the book for In the Heights, the Broadway musical, and she's won a Pulitzer for some of her plays. This is her first work of fiction, and it's about a woman. She's 26, but she was a teen mom in Philly, and one day she just gets so irritated that she leaves and sort of goes on this eternal quest to find herself. And it's like Siddhartha set in the hood, and I just loved it so much. And it's out in November. I'd really recommend that. Yeah, I love fiction for like expanding our minds and our senses of what is possible.
And escaping.
Big time.
Well, very cool. We really appreciate your time, and I, for one, have to say that you are very likable. So
Thank
something
you.
worked.
But subjective. There's somebody else on the call who didn't think so, and that's okay.
They're wrong. But thank you again so much. We really appreciate your time, and it was a beautiful book.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for making a book from 6 years ago feel relevant today. So thank you. Thank you.
I loved
Have a good
it.
one.
Thank you, Alicia.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.